apologies for global warming.
So tell us, what the hell are these big sponges in the background all about, and who designed those?
This is the Anderson Architects. This is the alluvial sponge comb. They're basically this super absorbent material, and it absorbs the water during flooding. And they basically sit in the ground next to the river, so when it floods, these things will absorb all the water, and by doing so they swell up and become as big as you want them to, basically.
Bigger than this?
Yeah, much bigger than this. These are just prototypes, and by doing so they also press against each other and they become a barrier. So they form basically a levee that builds itself as it's flooding. The sponge material can be reused. That's a great thing. So they just sit in the ground and they come up when they need it, and they can go back when it's over.
Americans have deep gratitude for, and we are touched by, the generosity of Italians and others in support of victims of the hurricanes. A year later, this U.S. pavilion demonstrates the optimism and ingenuity of students and young architects eager to contribute to rebuilding the communities struck by natural disaster. This is perfectly appropriate to the theme of this year's Architectural Biennale: cities, architecture, and society.
What this particular show focuses on is how to come up with types of architecture that are like a specific building type that will be sustainable and that can actually last and survive another hurricane or another flooding. So as opposed to just fighting the weather and fighting the water, it's like, how can we live with it?
You know, there are various reasons for density being considered a negative across the United States, but when you look at urban conditions, and particularly the specific site conditions of New Orleans, there's a certain logic to this. If you look at the number of people who are displaced by essentially single-family homes below a floodplain, this type of housing offers the ability to occupy that land in a way that can respond to those sorts of conditions.
There are 160 units here, and they all have framed, unobstructed view of the river, which was a very important thing for us. And also on the other side, we have a much more elaborate layout of the housing, depending on the size and the requirements of each individual. So those two very different conditions for us was a very appealing feature.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay.